several talents have been removed from AEW's suspension list, WWE executive has slammed CM Punk, and the world title match has been set for AEW Grand Slam. Stay tuned. So kicking things off with some AEW suspension news, which is pretty much what I think we've all been talking about for the last week or two at this point.
How could we not be?
How could we not be? How could we not be? But according to reports, several people have been removed from that suspension list. So Brandon Cutler, along with the AEW agent Pat Buck, are no longer suspended due to their involvement in the whole shenanigans going on backstage following the post All Out media scrum. So Pat Buck, who's credited as someone who tried to break up the fight between CM Punk, Ace Steel and the Elite, returned to work at last night's Dynamite. As well as Buck, Brandon Cutler came back to Brian Alvarez, claiming that everyone else who was involved in peacekeeping efforts was taken off their suspension. He added that those directly involved in the fight are still suspended and that they are in the dark as how long their suspensions will last for. Punk is out for many months anyway after undergoing surgery to repair a torn tricep. So it looks as though perhaps some third parties have been involved in this now to say who has done what and who maybe wasn't as involved as the main people within the whole ruckus right now.
You know, the people who are there trying to break it up or on the periphery of the situation are maybe not active combatants, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it's obviously going to be a lighter sentence for individuals, but at the same time, in a situation like that, you remember at school, like one person does something and they don't know who it is, they'll hold everybody back.
Everybody gets called in,
and then they've got to kind of work out who was involved, who was doing what. So it might have just been a kind of blanket, everybody stop.
Yeah.
You're all just on this list for now.
Yeah.
We need to go through all the details.
It was one of those things, I think, as well, when we first heard it, we were like, everybody involved should be suspended. And then that's perhaps forgetting about the people that were probably just there to help calm the situation down.
If you had a gun in that room, it would have been like the good old days the Undertaker was talking about.
Well, speaking of you saying guns there, we have someone shooting on CM Punk. Oh. Yes, a WWE executive has slammed CM Punk. Surprise, surprise. So, current SVP of WWE live events, Brian Road Dogg James, had some less than kind words to say about CM Punk during the latest edition of his Oh You Didn't Know podcast, speaking about the straight edge superstar. The WWE Hall of Famer had this to say, didn't he, Sam?
Yeah, he said, he's not a nice person. He's not good. I don't know. If you've been friends with somebody for so long and all of a sudden you all are in a lawsuit over stuff and you can't just talk, I don't understand it. But that's not the straw that broke the camel's back. For me, it was when we actually had to work with him in our 2014 run and seeing the attitude that he had towards me and Billy. Granted, we were not Hall of Famers at the time, but we were on our way there for sure. And we were the New Age Outlaws. At least we'd been there as long as he had, and he showed us no respect. He showed us disrespect. I mean, that was that. You don't get a second chance at that. I'm showing you respect. Why aren't you showing me respect?
He also went on to say, but the truth of it is, dude, respect is a two-way street. And if you don't give it, you dang sure ain't getting it. Not from me. You got one shot at that with me and Billy. He talked to us negatively. If I hadn't had a job there, like if I wouldn't have been newly hired, I would have probably fought him. Wow. I feel relatively confident that I would have come out on top, and this was prior to his training. This was prior to his karate training. Now, I feel like sometimes...
breaking news, Road Dogg tougher than everybody. No,
breaking news.
It's one of those things, I think, where wrestling's an industry. I guess it's kind of like being in a band or, you know, when you're out on the road and you're a small collective of people that live in a bubble, you're going to eventually start rubbing people up the wrong way, whether you intend to or not.
Definitely. I mean, there's lots of egos involved, right? And you can see, obviously, with the New Age Outlaws, them being around for as long as they had been in the Attitude Era and then coming back as well.
And this was kind of a greatest hits stop for them as well. So it was a big thing for them. So I understand from a standpoint of, you know, feeling disrespected, but it's just one of those things where I think, you know, in a lot of industries like this, you can't really do much without ending up stepping on somebody's toes.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. And, there's usually the mentality, I think, for some people as well, when sort of legends come back, like, like, oh, they're taking our spots. And you can see that maybe perhaps being a thing to factor in as well. But, I mean,
He was just living the gimmick. He went off on Dwayne. Now he's about to go off on the New Age Outlaws. And then you just didn't want to do the big pay-per-view run. No. I think, it's just one of those things.
It's one of those things. Sometimes it feels like Road Dogg might be the Simpsons thing of old man yells at cloud, but I'll get you yet, CM Punk. But it's, I guess I can see it from both sort of sides, as we were saying there. But moving on over to AEW now. Oh my goodness, Sam. A big old world title match has indeed been set.
And it's a juicy one.
It's a juicy one for AEW Grand Slam edition of Dynamite next week. Jon Moxley beat Sammy Guevara to advance to the finals in last night's Dynamite opener, while Daniel Bryan toppled Chris Jericho in the main event. Bryan Danielson, that WWE mark, toppled Chris Jericho in the main event as well to book his place in the match. So we've got two nice Blackpool Combat people coming together. Oh my goodness gracious.
It's going to be a respectful display of sportsmanship and brutal violence. Who do you think's coming out on top there?
I think, so obviously we've heard about Jon Moxley wanting some time off. He was supposed to have time off before this whole backstage post-scrum thing happened. I think it's Danielson's time.
Yeah, I think you could give it back to Mox, but even if you take that wanting time off out the situation, it would maybe just feel a bit kind of like, oh, we'll just quickly nip back to that, putting a pin back in it. But Bryan Danielson, AEW World Champion, even if it's not what you were factoring on immediately. Yeah. There's got to have been designs on that for a while, right? So there's got to be some good creative bubbling behind a potential thing. Definitely.
And, perhaps there's some dissension between the Blackpool Combat Club after a while as well, because we got Daniel Garcia to factor into stuff. Yeah. He might play into things. And also MJF with his chip, he was like, I can cash this in at any time, which makes it feel more like a Money in the Bank thing than it ever did prior to that. So I wonder if he comes in at the end of the match when they're both spent. Who knows?
There's a lot of potential for
There is indeed, but we have some more matches set for AEW Grand Slam 2. So following last night's Dynamite and the post-Dynamite Rampage taping, joining the AEW World Championship that we just talked about and the tag team title match between Swerve in Our Glory and The Acclaimed. There's also going to be a Ring of Honor World title match between Claudio Castagnoli and Chris Jericho, which I think is going to be good as well. I think Jericho's had some really good physical matches recently, especially how can you not with Moxley?
He's just going on to defy age, isn't he? Repeatedly.
At this point he is.
And you put him in there with Claudio. I'm very excited to see what's going to come out of that.
I think that could be really good. And we've also got an All-Atlantic Championship bout between Pac, who is defending his title with Orange Cassidy. We know those two can go really well together as well.
It's going to be tasty.
But not only that, we have rap star Action Bronson, who is going to be rap star, that rap man. He's going to be teaming with Hook on the Rampage Grand Slam 2, taking on 2.0. So we saw last night. We saw a little promo where they were like training.
Slow-mo shots of training in the ring and Bronson going on about Queens and how it's important. And so I'm quite excited to see that. I'm not going to lie.
We saw him briefly in the ring at the 0 hour pre-show thing for All Out as well. And he was throwing stuff about. I'm actually quite excited to see that.
Lifelong fan. So somebody who, when we look at where we're sort of entering an age where there's a bit more to the celebrity cameo in wrestling now, I'd like to say, given, Bad Bunny, Logan Paul, it's sort of setting a new precedent, isn't it? So hopefully we get Action Bronson really going for Destroyer.
Off
amazing.
The top rope. Onto
Through
the
7
outside.
Burning tables.
Oh, well, he used to go to
Into
ECW
thumbtacks.
tapings.
Yeah,
I reckon we're going to get something pretty special.
The Danbury Fall Part 3.
And finally, I actually want to pass this one over to you, Sam, because I feel like this is a big deal for you.
Oh, it is, in many ways.
A Japanese wrestling fan and a Yakuza game fan too.
So, Kenny Omega has taken some time to go to Japan in his time away from AEW, shall we put it that way?
Indeed.
And he's met back up with Kota Ibushi. They've been posting, they've been together, and the AEW EVP is just out there having a blast,
Having a really good time.
blast. But it's not the only reason he's there. He hasn't just flown out to go see Ibushi.
No,
unless he has, and this has just been thrown on his lap while he's over there.
Imagine if that has. Wow.
But he's been visiting the Sega offices, posting images of himself at the offices. He featured in the trailer for Like a Dragon 8. The former Yakuza 8 is now Like a Dragon 8. He's going to be featured in the game. He's been scanned into it. It's huge news. Yakuza's we've got 3 games coming out the next 3 years. And Judgment's on PC 1 and 2.
Oh God!
Just
tables rising.
And Ibushi, obviously, no update on his situation.
No.
But I think it's going to be one that is, it's a personal situation, so it's going to be one that it'll eventually, I imagine, we'll slowly start to find out as and when he's ready to return.
I think so. And obviously with the relationship AEW and New Japan too, I reckon we'll see them
fingers crossed.
Come back at some point. We'll see. That's the dream, at least, anyway.
Just a little run in the US.
Yeah. A Forbidden Door, just have them team together.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be great. Well, that is everything for your first news video. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with another news video down the line. But until then, it's been wonderful, a pleasure, a great time indeed to serve you one and all. I'm going to stop talking.
A fantastic time
it's
had by all.
Wonderful.
Absolutely cracking.
We'll see you in a bit. I tell thee, see ya.
Tatty bye.